I'm not exactly sure how to start. Um, Nice. I guess I should probably start at the beginning.
Behold the god of thunder!
Hello, Internet. Bard Monk here.
You missed me, bitch!
Hello, Internet. Bard Monk here. We're going to be taking a look at how to create a custom character for Marvel Champions. There are a myriad of approaches to how to do anything creative, and this is one of the few times where I've wanted to make a video very badly, but I feel like zero knowledge of what I'm trying to do. I know how to design cards. I could do that. I know how to play Marvel Champions a little bit better, so I think that's helpful. And I do have a character that I want to create that I believe is not in this game. Well, thematically, there is a character who fits the bill. I don't feel like a reskin is going to be the solution that I'm looking for. With that in mind, if you're looking to create a character and you want a place to start off, I'm hoping that this video can spark the creative process within you, or at least give you a starting point to begin the little adventure you're going to find yourself in. Hello Internet, Bardic Monk here, and today we're going to be taking a look at, as my intro has shown, how to make a custom character for Marvel Champions. And really, it boils down to I really like Thor as a character in Marvel Rivals. I showed it a lot in my intro, and now I'm just going to focus on Marvel Champions until I have to go into depth about Thor. I've tried to record this video for 19 hours now, and I think I'm just going to end after this first part, and we will continue in a future date on the next steps. But for this first part is mainly figuring out who do you want in the game. Step 2 is figuring out if they can just be a palette swap. Step 3 is going to be making a vision document, and step 4 is going to be finding inspiration and then going back between step 4 and 5, with 5 being updating the vision document. So I'm going to follow these steps real quick and then I will end the video. So here we go. Step 1, who do you want in this game? I want Thor. Thor is in this game already, so why am I trying to build Thor? Well, Thor currently is very, very good at dealing with minions. He's very much built to do so. Thor is very much geared around fighting as many minions as possible, dealing a lot of damage to the minions and getting bonuses for fighting the minions. And then he will, as a side effect, thwart in the case of Defender of the Nine Realms, and he is also benefiting from attacking the villain so long as he uses hammer throw for overthrow damage. And that's not this. Lastly, he's kind of has a couple of equipment cards that are gonna do some work for him, but overall, what he's trying to do, he's calling his hammer constantly over and over again, meaning that he could actually use Mjolnir as a first turn resource, and then call Mjolnir back in a later time, and then having the ability to use Mjolnir to boost him from a 1/2/2 to a 1/3/2. And his response on his character card specifically is After you engage a minion, draw 2 cards. So, Thor, as we're going to see, is very much built around these minions that he's going to keep fighting. Again, you draw 2 cards just for fighting a minion. You get a bonus attack and the aerial trait for having Mjolnir equipped. Lady Sif, when you summon her for 4, she seems a little expensive, but the bonus of having her, like the added benefit of having her, is you can attack with Thor for 3, summon her, call her out, and she will ready Thor, and then let him attack again, and then she can attack. So in her turn, you pay for 4 to do 8 damage on a turn. Next, we have Defender of the Nine Realms. As a hero action, you just discard cards from the top of the deck until you draw a minion. With this, you'd be able to discard from the top of the deck until, oh, I guess we got blowout too. You discard from the top of the deck until you find a minion, and then as soon as you have them engage with you, you just immediately get rid of 3 threat from scheme, any scheme. You have an event that you pay for 1, and as an alter ego action, instead of just being able to summon Mjolnir, you can summon any of the Asgard traded cards. You can get Lady Sif, Asgard, God of Thunder, one of the 2 copies of that, or Thor's helmet. Next, for Hammer Throw, you have a hero action attack. You exhaust Mjolnir as part of the cost. You deal 8 damage to an enemy and return Mjolnir to your hand. This attack gains Overkill. Next, we have Lightning Strike, which, if you're fighting multiple minions at the same time and the villain, you can spend energy resources to do damage to everybody engaged with you. And if you have the aerial trait, which means if you just have Mjolnir out, you do damage to everyone and ignore tough status cards. So if you're not aerial, you just get rid of all the tough status cards of everybody engaged with you. But if you are aerial, you can deal damage to everyone and just ignore the tough statuses on them. Which, if you spend enough, you could just kill anybody or KO anybody that's currently out on the field. But overall, just being able to, circumvent tough is pretty good. I'm curious when piercing was introduced, because it feels like Lightning Strike could be a piercing attack. But anyway, maybe this is just a balancing mechanic. Maybe having it cost 2 would make it a piercing attack. Who knows? Next, we have Asgard as a 3-cost support to give you +1 hand size. You have 2 God of Thunders, which you can use to generate energy resources. And lastly, you have Thor's helmet, which gives you +5 HP. So very much his whole kit is built around summoning and fighting minions and KOing them and benefiting from doing that. The more minions that he could get at a time, the better. And as my intro has probably shown, I do like the Rivals Thor, who is very much I'm going to fight the villain one-on-one, and I'm going to win. This whole thing initially started with, who do I want in this game? Thor from Marvel Rivals. That's step 1. Step 2 is figuring out if they can simply be a palette swap. In this case, Beta Ray Bill would actually be a very, very good palette swap for Thor. If you just wanted to have 2 versions of Thor running around on the field, I think it would be extremely easy to do. You would just get Thor and Odinson, and you would switch it to Bill, and then Beta Ray Bill. I think you could keep Mjolnir the same. The only thing you would want to change, really, you want to change the Obligation and the Nemesis cards. But you could probably just change the flavor of them, and then you get exactly what you need. So, just making another Thor, very simple. Just change the pictures, change the wording on some of these, and that's it. Lady Sif sometimes has messed around with Beta Ray Bill. He would benefit from her exactly how Thor does, meaning that when Lady Sif enters play, just ready Bill or Beta Ray Bill. I think I would change Asgard to be Scuttlebutt, his ship. Yeah, change Thor's helmet to Beta Ray Bill's helmet, and you're golden. So if I wanted to do just a palette swap, that's how I would do it. The thing that I'm trying to do is get Thor from Rivals into Marvel Champions. So what I have done at this point is I've looked at step 2, where is it, can it be a palette swap? I know how I would do it if it was a palette swap, and it would very easily be a palette swap, but he would not play the way I want him to. So therefore, I have essentially skipped step 2, or have managed to say, okay, so step 2 is not good enough for what I want. With step 2 done, now we have step 3, which is to make a vision document. They have alluded to this in Fantasy Flight Games. I know that this is a generic term because I've seen it from several companies as well, and other game designers, where they are making vision documents that a lot of people, well, the first time I heard it, I thought it was an allusion to Vision from Marvel, but it really is just a document where all you're trying to do is determine what you want and the design of the character, and then like the feeling of it. It's just like a pitch. Here's what we're trying to do. Thor currently is very much just, let me fight minions and then I'm going to benefit from fighting minions. For step 3, we have making the vision document, which will again focus on making Marvel Rivals Thor. This is before Beta Ray Bill shows up. This is how I went about it. First thing on the list is put Marvel Rivals Thor into Marvel Champions. So in order to put Thor into Marvel Champions, I'm just trying to list out the abilities he has. So what does he do? By default, he always has Mjolnir on him. That is just his regular punch. So he is going to be able to throw the hammer as well. He has an Awakening rune that essentially gives him some sort of like Super Saiyan effect, where he can start throwing lightning bolts at people. He has Lightning Realm, which helps him boost the ability to create Thor Force. And he has an ultimate where he shoots up into the sky, deals damage in an area, and then slams down for extra damage. And lastly, but probably the most important, we have Thor Force as a resource that looks like this on the screen. He's only got 3 of them. And pretty much everything that you do kind of revolves around Thor Force. Things that you're trying to do, like the basic thing for this is you're trying to generate as much Thor Force while also spending it. So whenever you're doing a Storm Surge, which is to throw Mjolnir and then hit somebody and like displace them, you use up one of the Thor Force, but when you smack somebody after a Storm Surge or the Hammer Throw, you get that Thor Force back. So you're constantly smacking people, generating resources, and using the resources to use abilities that get you back resources. Hello, Editor Monk here, and I just wanted to real quick cut off Recording Monk before things went a little off the rails. Recording Monk was very much sleep deprived and feeling a little sick, so he went off on a grand tangent into pretty much how to play Thor Marvel Rivals, and I kept the stuff that pretty much explained exactly everything that I liked about the character, everything that's included in how to play the character, and everything I'm trying to import into Marvel Champions. But I went into too much detail about exactly how to play the game after this, and I'm just going to cut into after that point. So I have just gotten rid of probably like another 15 minutes of me rambling, so here we go. So I was thinking of having some sort of like Mjolnir card out on the field that's more of a resource generator, and then using the resources to pay for his character cards, which then get boosted depending on how you're paying for them. Much in the same way as some cards would say, if you use this, if you used a resource, Bishop. So some of Bishop's cards, he has this ability or this effect where if you paid for this card using a resource, we're going to say Command Authority. I'm just going to blow this up here. On Command Authority, as a hero action, you thwart, remove 3 threat from a scheme. If you paid for this event with a resource card, draw 1 card. He has a couple cards in his set that do similar effects, where if you used a resource card, you get to do like an additional effect. So what I thought was you'd have a Mjolnir card just out in the field, and as probably a setup, and it's just depending on when you attack people, you're generating resources up to a max of like 3. Thor would then be again Odinson and Thor. I'd probably keep the same stats, but I'd want to change this into something else because he's not calling back Mjolnir if it's just a setup. And for Thor, the only thing I would probably change in this first, this vision document is, as a response, after you engage the villain, draw 2 cards. And then the rest of the kit, I'm probably switching a couple things. For the most part, we have Hammer Throw probably staying. We have Lightning Strike being a thing for essentially like making it the God of Thunder ult that he has. And Storm Surge is probably my favorite part of Marvel Rivals, where I can just look at somebody, hit shift, smack them, and they are displaced. They're kind of like prevented from doing something, and they're also set up to like smack them again. If I had something that did Storm Surge, right? So I get to do Storm Surge, and if I pay with a Thor Force, I could follow it up with an attack. If I attack the villain again this round, I get back a Thor Force or something like that. So these are the general ideas of what I'm going with. And I came up with an entire kit, essentially, and I just wrote it all down. We finished step 3, which is just to make this vision document. And because I don't want it to be Thor, I just changed it to Beta Ray Bill, and then that was essentially the first version of this vision document. Nextly, we go to step 4, which is to find inspiration. For all intents and purposes, he's essentially a second Thor. He's just has some backstory where he's protecting his people, and I didn't know about this until I was reading up on the wikis, and I see this whole backstory of the last survivors of this planet, which escaped the destruction of their solar system due to some host of demons destroying it. And while they're running away, the ship determines that Thor is a villain or a demon, and then awakens Beta Ray Bill from stasis, and Bill fights Thor. He manages to wrestle away the hammer from Thor, so Thor drops the hammer, and then in the aftermath becomes a second Thor. He gets the armor and the powers and everything, and he's able to lift Mjolnir. I loved this book. We are seeing the aftermath of Thor breaking his hammer, and what makes Beta Ray Bill tick for this writer, and I 100% would love to see more of this Beta Ray Bill. Doing all this research, I'm getting more and more inspiration for what should Beta Ray Bill be. So reading just the wikis, I have a couple more cards that come up, and then when I read the book, it changes everything about this vision document that I have. So things that I wanted to do: add Marvel Rivals Thor to the Marvel Champions, and then I'm scratching that out. What I'm trying to do is make Beta Ray Bill part of the Marvel Champions with the lens of Marvel Rivals Thor, and I am pretty much including this story into everything in here. So we do have a setup card that is essentially Stormbreaker. We have his obligation is his fight with Thor and the breaking of the hammer, which would actually remove this from the game. And then his minion and side scheme is actually Surtur, the demon that ends, that causes Ragnarok, or makes Ragnarok happen. So now step 3 is finished. Step 4 was finding inspiration, and this became the inspiration for me. Step 5 is to now update the vision document with this new information. So we have completely changed from let's make Marvel Rivals Thor into let's make Beta Ray Bill with some of the abilities I was thinking of for Marvel Rivals Thor. I have now come up with a host of cards, and I have a first pass completed for the cards I want to make, but they are not, in card form, but instead a list of cards and card effects. So in this case, I have the hero side being Beta Ray Bill, alter ego being Bill, the upgrade being Stormbreaker, and there's a couple of ideas that I had, and I've already done 4 passes before I've gotten to this step. There's a lot of just ideas here, and I think for a first step of any of this, to get this out, throw all your ideas out here, This is a very overpowered card currently, as are a lot of these, and I think you should just work with doing too much as opposed to too little. It's very easy to like turn down some effects than it is to turn them up. So I feel like starting overpowered and then working way down to more balanced is the approach that we should have for this process. So I have a lot of things here. Nothing's really ready to share with the class. I don't have like costs or anything for most of these. I am much more focused on these effects and then like writing some notes here and there. The other thing I was thinking of is that we have Ant-Man and Wasp, as well as Angel, being a character, the hero, alter ego, and then another version of the hero. Well, what if I have Surtur being essentially a smaller version of himself, and then a larger version of himself, and then the back of that being essentially the reward for defeating him. So I'm making an extremely overpowered minion who could pop up, and then just Beta Ray Bill is going to have to deal with him with the help of his friends, presumably. People I want to include in this deck, if I just have to give you a general gist of what I'm thinking about. We have Bill and Beta Ray Bill. We have Stormbreaker. Then you have Scut, which is different from Scuttlebutt. We also might have in his completed deck, but not part of his main kit. I would add allies like Scourge and Pip with this 80s like aliens style that they went with for both of them. And I have like Hammer Throw returns. Then I have a hold where you're removing threat from a scheme, and then you could even like stun people. So you're doing like a wrestling hold. And then Bill has essentially turned this deck into sometimes you throw stuff, sometimes you're doing wrestling attacks on people. So I have 2 holds and then a Rainmaker, an attack called the Pump Handle, and then I have 2 resources being the Records Room, some upgrades to the Scuttlebutt, and some upgrades to the Corbinite Champion, which is a title that gives him some stuff. The Scudder is a possible upgrade that I have, which is the name of the axes. They currently, this axe that he gets from Scut is unnamed, and I like the idea that Scut made him a cutting weapon, so I'm just calling it a Scudder. And then for the obligation, I don't have a name for it yet, but it's essentially it does break his thing. So yeah, the obligation is either going to be the destruction of his hammer, or something that symbolizes like him losing his morale because he's just dealing with this issue. Overall, I have these ideas out there, and I hope that this can provide you with like a starting point on how to think about this. For creating these custom characters, I think if you want to do it, you should. I think, again, I don't know if I mentioned it in this recording, but a simple way to deal with a custom character is even just changing the story that's being told on them. So you could have Thor dealing with this arc where his obligation is like under Galactus's hand, under Galactus's thumb would be a good one, and then he has to fight like Beta Ray Bill as his nemesis in this case, or maybe even fight Galactus himself, and then he's just dealing with this response. And I'd probably add like part of this modular set would probably be like remove these, add a new set of obligations and a new setup card where now he has the power cosmic as a setup, and then it boosts him in some way, shape, or form so that he's like OP. But as soon as these things start popping up, it really does mess him up. It makes him weaker than he would be at base. So some things to think about for creating custom content. I hope this is a very good starting point for people. Please let me know what you think. I will return with I'm not sure if I'm going to have finished cards with something playable. And I might be using blank cards with just words written on them before I even think about making custom cards to be printed out, because that's a very, very arduous process to have to repeat over and over again while trying to just fix the cards. So we'll see. Thank you for watching. I hope that this wasn't too rambly and that this was helpful for you. Have a great day, have a great night, and as always, everybody, stay positive.